All right, welcome back. We have the Speaker Pro Temp, Mr. Tanner Magee, State Rep, on the desk today. And Tanner, you were greeted by a group from St. Matthews today.
Yeah, that's a great surprise to have some young people in the audience.
Yeah, no doubt. But let's get a shot of our group. Now we have 6 out here watching with Miss Marue, 3 more in the control room. Y'all wave to the camera right here. Y'all wave right here. There we go. So they wanted to see the Speaker Pro Temp and the parish president. And who wants to be on TV one day? Raise your hand. Well, guess what? Y'all are on right now. How about that? Pretty cool, huh? All right. Well, welcome aboard. A lot has changed since we last met. Can you give us an update on FEMA? Where do we stand there? It still seems a little slow, like Mr. Waite said. Cat and mouse type of game. Is that your perception at this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely difficult. It definitely hasn't moved as fast as I know you and I would like it to move. But they do have a presence on the ground. They have been around, but we still haven't got the trailers from the FEMA side of the program like we would like. I mean, I think that's definitely true.
Now, what's the FEMA? Let's just re-educate people again. FEMA sort of transferred it to GOSEF. FEMA's in charge of paying the final bill, but they seem to blame each other.
Right. So there's technically 2 programs, Martin. You have the FEMA's own program, the direct trailer program, which is still available. I don't know that we'll ever see a trailer under that program, right. But it still is technically in existence. People have applied. They've gone through the room. They may, or 1 or 2 have maybe leaked out that way. But the main way of getting a trailer is through the state's GOSEP program, which is idashelteringforla.com. I'm going to say it one more time just to make sure it's out in the public. idashelteringforla.com, where we can sign up through GOSEP. FEMA's paying for that program, but the state is running it and managing getting out. It has put trailers out there. I think if you pass by the Civic Center, those are the trailers that you are seeing. That's not FEMA. That's the state's program out there. Yeah. We hired a company called Aptum to actually manage getting these trailers out to everybody. Aptum has been sort of blaming, really saying they can't get in touch with people. People are applying online. We are trying our best to troubleshoot all those issues. I'm having the exact opposite response. People are calling me saying they haven't heard from Aptum and that their numbers are being available for them.
Depends on who you talk to.
Depends on who you talk to. And so at that point, my office has been trying to intervene as best as possible to find out what is going on and what can we do to try and resolve that issue. I would like to see a more active approach from Aptum and the state as far as being here out in the communities. If you're having problems reaching people, the easiest way, and look, everybody in the bayou knows, you just go down the bayou. Right. I mean, though it is amazing, the bayou is like its own telephone service. Like it just.
We were there this morning with the cameras. They're there. All you have to do is, Mr. Waits, the DA, said, FEMA, come to me, I'll bring you to the people.
Exactly. No, and look, if you show up at Ward 7 or you show up at the Montague Lions Club or the Dulac Gym, the Dularge Gym, they're going to put you in touch with the people that need these services. Mm-hmm. And that's to me is a disconnect. And I think given all the communication challenges we've had, phone, internet, everything else, the best way in this scenario is to be on the ground, driving around, making yourself available.
Yeah. What have we learned from this for future IDAs? There's going to be one somewhere down. It may not be us. Maybe these young students here today that go through what we're going through, but we should have learned a bunch from this, shouldn't we?
Yes, absolutely. And I had a lot of conversations with a lot of people, and we are going to have a state trailer program separate and apart from FEMA on the ready going forward, where the state has a warehouse full of trailers, not maybe enough for everybody after storm, but enough to get that initial wave taken care of the really needy and desperate. 500, whatever that number is, 500 to 1,000 trailers on the ready every year. So we're not reinventing the wheel, trying to find trailers, trying to do this right. They're in a warehouse and they're ready to go. And that has to be a statewide appropriation out the gate.
And shouldn't the messaging be consistent? Because some people talk to FEMA, they get a different message in GOSEF. Nobody knows whether or not to put their own electrical pole up or whether they're supposed to let FEMA do that or do it themselves. The messaging needs to be consistent.
Absolutely, and I think that's one of the biggest struggles you have. And then you also got to bring Entergy. Look, I'm getting a lot of complaints from people about Entergy right now. And I call Entergy and I talk to all their people. I talked to the vice president, the number 2 guy at Entergy, and he said, look, we've had people in Terrebonne Parish waiting for these trailers to hook them up, but the big but was we got tired of waiting on the trailers to come, and at some point I have to let my guys go. I can't keep them. We're heading into holiday season, so we have downsized. And so you're going to see a less amount of presence of Entergy because we waited too long trying to keep our people there. But call me, and as a need basis, we'll work with y'all, but we just can't keep that kind of staffing from this far out. So there's a whole lot of issues that are popping up as a result of the state delays that we're trying to fix now. And like you said, we need to have these things done on the front end.
Yeah, you would think with all the catastrophes we've had, not just here, like you've said before, forest fires, earthquakes, that we'd have this down to science.
You would think that this would be roll out step 1, step 2, step 3. It's not like that. You know, they like to say, well, every situation is different. And look, I get that, you know, everything will require adjustments, but you have to have a rock solid plan going into place, and we just have not had that.
I remember what Mr. Waits called it, a shell game.
And look,
not a bad terminology.
it's not. And look, I'm against government waste as everybody, but in an emergency situation, you have to help people first, worry about the counting on the back end. What we have right now is worry about the counting on the front end, put people on the back end. And that is not a system. That creates the shell game that Mr. Waits is referring to. And I think that causes a lot of our problems.
I know y'all see those heads down there. That's St. Matthew's, and that's some of their very talented students. So what we're going to do, before I move on with the state rep, let's go to Ashton first, and we're going to get them all to introduce themselves and tell us what grade they're in. Ashton?
Hello, my name is Ashton Woodfork, and I'm in 3rd grade.
My name is William Wayne, and I'm in 2nd grade.
Hello, my name is Sarah Joseph, and I am in 2nd grade.
My name is Sidney Siddon, and I am in 4th grade.
My name is Molly Diebold, and I'm in 4th grade.
My name is Rav Bhatt, and I'm in 7th grade.
Wow, y'all are so confident. I'm so proud of y'all. Miss Marue and all do a great job. Miss Kelly, the whole gang. Give yourselves a hand for that. Y'all did great. Now I'm going to turn back to the speaker pro temp, okay? So we heard news that Mitch Landrieu's back in the news, and give me your thoughts on that. Good for Louisiana or what?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you have somebody in Louisiana who's in charge of a recovery program, it's going to be good for Louisiana. You know, I think former Lieutenant Governor Mitch Landrieu has a reputation of maybe being difficult at times in state politics, but, you know, like I told you before when we were talking in the break, I'd much rather have somebody difficult that's from Louisiana than somebody who's easy to get along with from Montana. So, you know, he clearly knows the needs of the state, or at least we have a closer connection to relate our needs of the state to him. And if we're giving out this money, we might as well get as much of it as we can down here. So I think it's definitely a positive thing for the state from that aspect.
And I would think with his relationship with Cedric Richmond and well, all the way up the chain, really. I'm sure he knows the president pretty well.
I mean, you know, that's one of the things. It's you know, it's one of those like 6 degrees of separation. We're even that much closer to the top to get all this money as they divvy it out. I mean, there's a lot of things that Louisiana is uniquely suited to under the infrastructure plan to receive. I mean, I think you're going to see some Morganza to the Gulf funding authorizations that we've been needing that are the only thing that really qualifies for some of the money. I think it's like $500 million if I remember off the top of my head. So I mean, I think it's going to be good. And then as things go on, I think there's $6 billion already allocated to Louisiana for infrastructure, but I think there's opportunities for applications on the grant process side. And I think that's really where Mitch can really kind of step in and help us out and figure out, you know, what's the best way to do it. Look, I'll tell your audience and you, for example, when we did the LA1 funding piece, I was the main author on that, and we were looking towards getting an infra grant from the Trump administration. How do we do it? It literally took knowing the head of the Department of Transportation to say, this is how you have to write it in the bill. And if y'all write it exactly like this and use these 5 words, I can guarantee you that you're going to get the infra grant. Now, you know, if you don't have that sort of connection, you don't know to use those words. And through the process, people kept trying to change my language. I had house staff like, these words are not good, blah, blah. It's like, you cannot touch those words. That's what gets us the money, right? And so I think that's kind of what the things having former Lieutenant Governor Landrieu in that position, I think, is the kind of thing that helps.
So how do we change the perception that, okay, here we go, another bunch of money coming down the pipe to very familiar names, good or bad, but how do we change that perception? What would you like to see? How should it be dispersed?
Look, I always think when you're dealing with money like this, it's better to get the money as local as possible as you can. I think people on the ground know what they need more than people far away. We know our parish, right? Now that's within reason. You got to make sure qualify some guidelines and make sure that you're not giving it to maybe some shadier parishes in the state that maybe don't have quite the reputation. But I think few strings attached, but really good strings, and make sure that the money's being used in an appropriate way. I think once you do that, you give it to the locals, you let them fund their own needs.
You would think that Mitch Landry, he's no stranger to controversy, like you said. He don't mind getting in the middle and mixing it up. It's almost part of his, his personality. Can he be a guy to help with FEMA and different things? Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, look, for his warts, and he was always sort of difficult to deal with when he came to Baton Rouge as mayor of New Orleans. I mean, he was not one of those ones that I would put in the category of played well nice with others all the time. But for his warts, he was definitely somebody who wasn't afraid to stand up to people. And he wasn't afraid to get a message out. And he wasn't afraid to say things that upset people. And I think that's kind of what you need when you're dealing with agencies like FEMA.
Yeah. Well, where do you see, can this be a chance for the president to get something solid in Louisiana? Hey, I mean, his poll numbers are way down, but at least in Louisiana, come and help us do some good things.
Yeah, I mean, I think these are one of those things that's always an opportunity. With crisis, always comes opportunity, and how we look and how we build back is going to define them. I mean, I think we won't know what the full story is until we're a couple years out and we see what it all turned out to be. Did we get the money for our levees? Did we get the money for our roads? Did we get the money for our bridges? Look, Louisiana is a D- rating on bridges. Mm-hmm. We're one of the worst states on bridges, and we also have the most bridges. So it's not like it's a part of the problem we have in Louisiana is we have so many waters to cross. That's hard to maintain all these bridges. But I think, when you look at Lake Charles, they have a really bad bridge. If anybody's driven to Houston recently, you're like taking your life, I think it's like a 6 rating out of like 100 scale. It should probably be closed, but it's not. Things like that, if we fix those things with the money, I think people will look back on it well. And if we just waste the money and we don't fix these bridges, we don't make these changes, I think that's where people will look back on it and say.
If you go to Lafayette, you better have good shocks.
Right.
Because that road to Lafayette, you bounce it up down. And we have the St. Matthews group in the house. We're going to swap them out with some in the control room in a second. Miss Marue Soudelier is with him. And Marue, you got a great group here. They're really well behaved.
Thank you. Yes, they're kind of a cross-representation of the students at St. Matthews. This particular group and the others that you'll see momentarily are students who have qualified for what we call the Advanced and Gifted program at St. Matthews. And they've got a lot of different projects that they've done over the last 2 years. We started the Gifted program 2 years ago. And then we also have, they publish a school newspaper called Dolphin Tales. They'll do interviews and that type of thing. And now they want to go into actual broadcasting of sorts. So that's why we're here today.
Well, good. Maybe they could take my place during storm coverage. And one of y'all could learn how to use the stick. Y'all can make that happen. Marue, I know you have a question for our state rep.
I did. Mr. Magee, I wanted to ask you, our students are very interested in coastal restoration. As a matter of fact, a couple of our students actually live down near Pointe-a-Shan, and we know that land loss has been a real concern. And as time goes on, some of them are saying, well, wait, will the coast now be at my house one day?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think, one of the things that's in the Biden infrastructure plan, as I understand it, is they have additional amount of money. And I want to say off the top of my head, like $500 million. And that money set aside for coastal restoration projects. It doesn't say it's earmarked for Louisiana because for political reasons, they didn't do it. But I think the only state that qualifies under the guidelines is going to be Louisiana. So we are slated to get that money, which would be a huge step as we move forward. The state has a master plan that it's constantly engaging in and constantly funding And we've done a good job partnering with state and locals to make the master plan work for Louisiana. It's had progress, but it hasn't been enough, and the only thing that's been holding it up is money. And the more money we throw at it, the more that it's going to be. And I think that the total price tag on the state's annual plan is $50 billion. So that's ultimately what we believe the state believes we need to save our land. But it's not $50 billion in 1 year. So it's $50 billion that we are working constantly to fund and do projects. And so we are seeing that the Morganza to the Gulf is something that is going to be a reality in our lifetime, I believe.
And that's a great question from Marue. I expected nothing less. Marue, what's your exact title again?
I'm actually the director of Learning Lab at St. Matthews. It provides resources to students and extra opportunities. So.
All right, I wanted the audience to hear. Marue does so much for the community, always has. Tell us about the state budget moving forward. I know you're a little more optimistic this year than in years past. Seems to be a better time.
It's a much better time. This is probably the first time in a long time that the state is on solid footing. I mean, you have to go back to probably the first year of Jindal or the last year of Blanco that we were really running surpluses. And a lot of that's recovery related and everything else. But I think what we're trying to do is make sure we don't blow it like we did last time. I think a lot of the legislators themselves are very cognizant of the fact that we had an opportunity after Katrina and we really didn't use it to our full advantage. And so I think you're going to see a lot of careful consideration about how we don't go spend a bunch of money that ties us down and we have to cut things later. So I think that's really what you're going to see as we go forward.
For our St. Matthews crew here today, a lot of young, aspiring, very smart young men and women up here. They're going to be running the parish and the state in a few years. We're going to be in the walkers and the scooters and everything else. What kind of advice would you give them? I mean, you took a chance and ran for reasons you wanted to change things. What kind of advice would you have for them?
The most important thing is to be engaged. I mean, I think a lot of times it feels like government's far away from you, but it's really not. I think people are shocked if they come to Baton Rouge, and I would love for y'all to come to Baton Rouge and to the Capitol. I always find that Terrebonne is underrepresented as far as school tours. Lafayette comes a lot of other places come far to Baton Rouge to see the Capitol, and I find that Terrebonne, for some reason, the schools here don't really come as much. I'd like to see y'all come more because one of the things you learn is that you can come to the Capitol, they'll let you ride in, and you can pretty much talk to anybody from the governor down. I mean, it's a small state. At the end of the day, it may seem like a big state, but we're all a lot closer than we look. And so having that engagement with people, I think, is what really makes it different, telling you their concerns. And I find that people in government are actually much more, at least the elected officials are much more concerned with what the people think more than people realize. And I think that they have to experience it and they have to be there. I think that there's a disconnect. People think they're not responsive because they're not there and they're not developing that contact. And I think they feel left out.
So that's some good advice. Good. How many of y'all may want to run for office one day? All right.
That's 2, 3. All right.
3. All right. Good day. So you got to get involved. All right. So we're going to be going to a break. I want to pass that microphone to Miss Sarah Joseph in the 2nd grade. So, Sarah, I want you, because you came in here, you were so bold when you came in the studio. So, first of all, I want you to do this. Look. Take a deep breath. Okay? Got it? Now, I want you to look at that camera up there, and I want to let them, there you go. You're going to look right up here at this camera, and I want you to say, we're going to be right back after a short commercial break.
We're going to be right back after a short commercial break.
Perfect. All right. Thank you, Tanner. We appreciate you.
No, thank you for having me. I think she's ready for your job.
She's ready. Come on. Let's go. All right. We'll be right back.